that'll be enough of the intro. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. I am your host, Bull Muscle. We got ourselves a great show for you tonight. I'm going to be going ahead and there we go. Setting up another tier maker. Oh, why do we got there? We go. Much better. So, today's audience, or today's consultation comes to you from another viewer. Aloha, Bull Muscle. I really enjoyed your tier list rankings. I really enjoyed your tier list rankings of different exercises for push, pull, and leg day. In particular, I am really impressed with your behind. I'm trying to censor this a bit, but basically this guy thinks my ass is hot. I'm very flattered by that. But he asked me if I could tier list glute in particular exercises. So this tier list will work much the same way. However, we're just going to be talking about glutes here. So those of you who somehow don't know what your glutes are, your gluteus maximus or your glute muscles or your butt, okay? There's really two different types of exercises that work your glutes really well. The first is going to be a hip hinge style. So the hip hinge is probably best well known by the deadlift, right? So the deadlift, you pick up the weight, you squeeze your glutes at the top and lock out with the hip hinge moment, right? So hip hinge right here, that's going to require glute muscles to lock out at the top. The second one is the knee bend, which is basically a squat, right? Requires you come down, requires your glutes to come back up. Pretty self-explanatory. A tight butt will make you wear your blue jeans, right? You have no idea. Bro, unfortunately, my biggest issue is my thighs are now wide to the point where it's hard for me to find a pair of jeans that fit. I have a 34-ish inch waist, but I'm 41 and a half inches around the glutes, and each of my thighs are 27 in circumference. Makes it really hard to find a good fitting pair of jeans. So I end up compromising going with the super baggy pants to just kind of sag around my waist and getting a belt. That's all I can do. They just don't make very good clothes for muscular people, honestly. Almost all clothes in this country are designed for fat people. Excuse me. Be that as it may, let's go ahead and dive into this. So, y'all already know the drill about tiers. I shouldn't have to explain that to you. If you don't know what S tier, A tier, B, C, D, and F really mean, F tier is basically this exercise doesn't work your glutes at all. Why would you do this? S tier is this is about the best that it gets. All right, so we're going to dive into it. Low bar barbell squat. Now, you'll notice that I'm specifying low bar here. Low bar barbell squat is better than, in my opinion, high bar barbell squat for this. Because the weight is a little bit further back, you can really focus on your posterior chain a bit more, whereas with a high bar barbell squat, it tends to be a little bit more quad dominant. So for that reason, high bar barbell squat will go in the A tier. Both, really any squat is a good squat, doesn't really matter. These are both excellent options. I personally feel like I really am able to drive a little bit more with my glutes on the low bar. Other S tier exercise. Ride a fucking bicycle, okay? Riding a bike, whether or not, the best part of riding a bike is that when your glutes start to get kind of sore, you can stand up or sit down in the saddle and you can alter the angle at which you're going. You can pedal uphill, you can bomb downhill, you can pedal flatland, you can do mountain biking. It doesn't matter, they're all fantastic exercises for your ass. Strongly recommend. All right? I'll make this, yeah. I'm putting hiking in the A tier. The reason I'm not putting hiking in the S tier is that hiking is an S tier exercise here, but in a lot of places you do not have the elevation changes that are necessary to really force you to use those glutes in a way that builds them up properly. So I will say hiking is free, it's enjoyable, and it's very, very good for your glutes. However, for some people it may require traveling a little bit. So I'll go ahead and put that in A tier. Also going into A tier, climbing stairs. Climbing stairs allows you to go up and down floors faster than most elevators. Use this as an opportunity. Unless you are an Olympic tier level athlete, I'm quoting Mr. Money Mustache here because he's correct. Unless you're an Olympic tier athlete who is training for something serious, all of us could use more exercise, all of us could use the more calories burned, all of us could use a little bit more glute power. Climbing stairs is a very easy way to do that. Strongly recommend it. Hip thrust. So the hip thrust motion is a little bit more, there's no way of doing a hip thrust without it being sus as hell, but that shouldn't discourage you because it is an excellent exercise to work the glutes. We try and do it with this wheelie chair, which may make it slightly difficult. But in essence, the hip thrust is where you have a barbell on your hips, you come down, and you thrust up. You use your glutes to squeeze and make a bridge at the top, like that. Does it look sexual? Of course it does. It's a hip thrust. Look, there's that one. There are a lot of people who will say hip thrusters are girly exercises. They're not. A solid hip thrust, especially if you're holding it at the top, squeezing those glutes together to keep the hips straight out, fantastic exercise. The only reason I put it in A tier instead of an S tier is that it's kind of unwieldy, and especially if you're not used to it, it can cause some bruises if you're not careful with how you hold the weight. I personally actually really like doing this on a Smith machine because the whole point here isn't to worry about left-right balance, it's to worry about holding that thrust at the top, which I think the Smith machine does rather well. Ask James Harrison, he hip thrust about, Jesus, James Harrison was built different. So let's carry on here. Oh, one other S tier. Jefferson deadlift. I've already talked about the Jefferson deadlift at length, but the way you straddle the bar is basically right below your glutes, and you really got to squeeze your glutes tight to get them all the way up. Done properly, the Jefferson deadlift is a torture for your glutes in the best possible way. Conventional deadlift. It's very simple. You're just picking up the weight. The only downside with conventional deadlift is that you're, it's really just working the hip hinge motion. It does work your glutes, but you're going to be working a ton of other stuff with it, so it could also wear down your central nervous system before you really feel like your glutes are genuinely tired yet. Romanian deadlift. So the Romanian deadlift does work your glutes, but by focusing on the eccentric, it's really more stretching your hamstrings out in particular than your glutes. So when you're coming back up, it is useful. You will work your glutes on the concentric section, especially of the Romanian deadlift. But in general, if you're going to do that, you might as well be doing a conventional or a Jefferson deadlift. Sumo deadlift. So for those people who really just want that raw power and decreased range of motion, you can do a sumo deadlift. I personally think you get a better feel for the hip hinge with a conventional, but I won't lie, a sumo deadlift will still hit your glutes pretty good. Front squat. So the front squat is great for hitting your thighs, but because the bar is in front of where it would normally be with a barbell squat or a back squat, it's going to be a lot more focused on hitting your quadriceps than it is on hitting your glutes. You can still hit your glutes some, but your quadriceps are going to burn out before your glutes are really starting to feel it. This is basically, if you take the principle that differentiates between low bar and high bar squat and then did that again, there you go. And in parallel with that, Zercher squats. Zercher squats is basically the same thing, except that you're holding the barbell in the crook of your elbow, which to me just does not feel comfortable at all. I don't see the value in doing Zerchers, but if you like them, they work basically the same as a front squat here. I personally don't feel very comfortable with it, so I tend not to do them. I'm too busy focusing on keeping my, with withstanding the pain from the elbows to really feel much. So I'm not the world's biggest fan of them for that. Good mornings. Good mornings, you're actually, this is really more of a D tier. Good mornings are great more for your lower back. There's something in my throat. I do apologize. Good mornings are really great for your lower back and stretching out your hamstrings, much like a Romanian deadlift. But the difference is, with the concentric on a Romanian deadlift, it's still, you can do it at reasonably heavy weight to actually get something out of it. With a good morning, you are not doing that at heavy weight unless you feel like getting hurt. So I would generally put good mornings for the D tier here. All right, goblet squats. So goblet squats can be really good. The reason they're not higher is that it depends on the position at which you put your feet. For instance, a goblet squat, it's basically just a front squat if you keep your feet together. So if you're keeping your feet together, let's say you've got them elevated on a plate because you want to keep your back upright, well, that, it's going to hit your quads really good, but this ain't doing much for your glutes. However, if you were instead to take your feet on an elevated plate, but put them out side to side, almost at like a 180-degree angle, and squat like that, oh, you will feel that in your glutes. To give you an example, right, you can see the glute activation here requires a squeeze at the top, whereas glute activation here, not as much. So I'm going to put goblet squat, provided you do the stance, a wide stance. Yes, it can go here. Otherwise, goblet squat is going to be down here. It's basically a less effective front squat. Let's see here. F tier. This is an F tier anyway, but you're going to be working way too much. You're going to be caring way too much about balance on pistol squats to actually get anything good out of them for your glutes. Same thing here, sissy squats. Sissy squats are a great exercise for your quads. They're not so great for your glutes. Leg extensions. If you are doing leg extensions to try and work your glute muscles, go and learn some basic anatomy, because that's not how that works. Pretty self-explanatory. Likewise, okay? Calf extensions, right? I shouldn't have to explain that these two really don't even belong on this list, but they're basically there to isolate the legs and the calves, so they're not going to help you here. I'm sorry to hear the gene industry is failing me. Yeah, it's my modeling director has complaints about that. He's like, bro, it is impossible to find good pants for you because your thighs are just too fucking big. Which I'm like, hey, you wonder why I wear shorts all the time? Well, between the fact that the weather's always sunny here and then not having comfortable pants, pretty obvious. Speaking of other annoying things, my weight has been ticking up as of late, and I did not get enough sleep last night, so I need to unfuck that, because I've got about not even 3 weeks until the modeling show, and I'm nowhere near 208 right now, so I gotta fucking haul ass on losing some weight. Ugh, just don't want to. Alright, so what else we got here? So, there's a couple more we can do. We're gonna put lunges as a generic C tier variation. It really depends here on how you're doing them, whether or not you're doing them on a platform, whether or not you're doing forward or reverse lunges, and so on and so forth. As a result, lunges, they can be great for your glutes, they can be great for your, they can be like less focused on your glutes. Really depends on the way you work them. And the same thing applies for split squats. I will make one exception with the split squat, and that's the Bulgarians. Bulgarian split squats are a fantastic exercise, but I feel them a lot more in my quads than I do in my glutes. In general, my quads are shaking like crazy. My glutes aren't feeling it too bad on Bulgarians. Let's see. This is actually a good one that I'll put up here. Bottom half partial squats. Now this one's a little bit of a technique-based thing. The bottom half, the idea here is that you can go either high or low bar. If you're trying to work your glutes, low bar would probably be what makes the most sense. But with a partial, the idea here is that instead of making full range of motion, right? So full range of motion on a squat, you come down, get up, down, up, down, up. So it's basically forcing your glutes, really your posterior, but your glutes and your hamstrings to explode up, up, up. Because the top half of the squat motion is going to work more of your quadriceps with that drive. The bottom half is where that's all the power from your glutes. So bottom half partials work really well. You can try them on a Smith machine or on a barbell. Those work pretty solid. You could do partials with a goblet, you know, or something like that. I believe. Obviously, leg press. So the leg press is very much like front squat, lunges, or split squats. I think it's a little bit better on average, but it's going to depend on what type of leg press you're using, what depth you set it to, how many reps you're doing, and how much intensity you're putting in on it. Really depends very much on the style of the leg press. However, a leg press can absolutely kill your glutes if you're doing it correctly. So it's too variable for me to go ahead and put it any higher than B tier, but in general, I think leg presses tend to be pretty good for your glutes. The single leg glute machine or kick out. You've probably seen these at the gym somewhere where you're like, let me see if I can do this in front here of the camera, where like you start with a leg that's on a little pad and you kick out like that, and that's the motion. In general, I would say that's a waste of your time. I've only ever seen women doing those, and frankly, I don't even understand why. The weights on those usually aren't heavy enough for you to actually get anything out of that particular exercise. I personally don't really feel it at all using those. I'm not a fan of isolation machine work in general. I don't think it's usually as good, but that one in particular, you'd be better off just hitting a leg press. So the prone leg curl, this is personal preference right here. The prone leg curl, I feel like I'm able to squeeze my glutes at the top a little bit more and get more out of a prone leg curl than just hamstrings. The seated leg curl, I feel like I get a better motion on my hamstrings, but we're talking about glutes here. So prone leg curl works a little bit better for that, in my opinion. Trying to think of any other workouts that would really be germane to this discussion. I'll put the power clean in D tier here. Yes, you do use your glutes on a power clean. However, you're doing so many other muscles of the power clean as a total complete movement that, yes, while it does work your glutes, it's not really focusing on your glutes. And by the time your glutes would get tired from power cleans, you're going to have a lot of other muscles that fail first. So I would say power cleans for working your glutes, not the number one choice. I love power cleans, don't get me wrong, they're a great exercise, but understand what it is you're doing with them. See if there are any others I've missed. And right, excuse me, goes without saying, what applies to a power clean here also applies to a full body press. A hang clean is actually, I'd put that in the F tier. A hang clean really doesn't work your glutes that much. It's working a lot of, to a small extent, I guess, but you know, a hang clean basically is a power clean minus the deadlifting portion. So, you know, a deadlift is a lot more effective in terms of working your glutes than the rest of the clean movement. So I would not, if you were doing hang cleans to work your glutes, I'd be a bit concerned, put it that way. Any other exercises? Running an elliptical is great for your cardiovascular system, and it's great for burning calories, but in and of itself, it's not going to make your glutes any bigger. It's just not. If you really want to do that, do cycling instead, because at least there, cycling can efficiently get you different places, you know, in real world, so it saves you some time. I guess we'll call it treadmill and elliptical. Any of the cardio machines, basically. Running itself at least gets you around, but it doesn't really, like your glutes, yeah, if you run a marathon, your glutes will be sore, but there are going to be a whole lot of other muscles that come before that. So I guess we'll go running here. Like I said, yeah, I'd probably put it in D tier. It's useful for getting around, but like that's not, you're not going to get amazing glutes just from running. Most runners have no ass. Like they're designed to be very skinny. So I don't think that's what you're looking for. That more or less about does it. Something is stuck in my throat. I don't know what it is. Let me check the rest of my notes to make sure there aren't any other exercises I've missed. Let's see. Romanians, Jeffersons, sumos, split squats, hit all those. This one's also pretty good. Pause squats. So it more or less works the same way as bottom half partials do. You can come up from the bottom and explode. The only downside is that, you know, you're gonna have to work on your breathing and make sure you're able to hold it down there in the hole for several seconds. So there's benefits to a partial squat, a pause squat though. And then B tier we'll go with box squats. For this to work your glutes, it really depends on the height of the box. If the box is deep enough, then yes. If the box is kind of shallow, then you're going to be working more of quadriceps. So it really, that one kind of depends on the size of the box and how you're doing them. Yeah, okay, I think that really is about it for glute exercises. Are there any other... I don't think there are any other tiers I can think of, or any other exercises I can think of that really work your glutes very well. No, that's a pretty comprehensive glutes tier list. If there is something that I missed, you can ask me on the Discord, or you can write into me at askbullmuscle@gmail.com and say, hey, Bull, where would you rank this exercise? But I think that's going to be it. Looks like chat doesn't have a whole lot for me today, which is fine. I'm going to probably, speaking of cardio that I need to get done, because I'm looking tubby, y'all. I'm not happy with this right now. There is way less definition here than there ought to be. So I'm probably going to go do some cardio. Nothing crazy, because today's supposed to be a rest day. I did not sleep particularly well, so I'm not feeling particularly high energy. Like, I noticed I was feeling gassed cycling home, which I never feel. So I was thinking about going for a run. I might just go for a walk instead. But wide stance comment was useful and Big Red confirmed. Yeah, definitely. That's one where I've learned about it. But if you like that kind of wide stance feel, people sleep so hard on Jefferson deadlifts, my man. Give Jefferson deadlifts a try. You won't be disappointed. That's really about it. So, hope you all enjoyed. This is the only consultation I have on the books right now, so until next time, you can write in if you want a consultation, askbullmuscle@gmail.com. Otherwise, until then, make good decisions. Those good decisions form your habits. Those habits form your values. Those values form your ethos. Becomes a guide star through the rough waters of life. Much love, y'all. Come in for the hug. Shoots. See y'all later.